Hi guys and girls, I'm Q&Ant and welcome to the latest episode of Q&Ant. Now this is a series where I take a bunch of questions, topics and subjects and just sit here and talk about them. The subjects and questions are submitted by Patreon backers and YouTube members, but the video is free to watch for everyone. Now if you do ever want to join in and submit some questions, then do check out my Patreon channel, or alternatively have a look at the join button that you can see just below this video. Now this is a monthly series, but unfortunately I missed out on last month's video and I had a bunch of stuff going on around here. I wasn't feeling too great and got in a pretty bad way for quite a few weeks, but kind of over that now, so here we are, we're back with the series, and I've pulled together the questions from last month as well, and we're going to talk about all of that together. In the background here you can see some absolutely stunning footage from Space Engine that will be going throughout this video, but there'll also be a video from other games as I talk about them, most notably of course Elite Dangerous, as that's pretty much the primary focus of this YouTube channel. But of course YouTube for me is very much about space themed games, so anything goes, really any subject. It doesn't have to be just about Elite, but yeah, here we go, let's get to it. So Jared Gibbs wants to talk about the various installations that are set up around the galaxy. He saw some of these on a recent exploration trip and really wonders as to their purpose. So for those that might not be aware, installations are bases located in a whole variety of locations. They come in all shapes and sizes and include military bases, pirate bases, civilian outposts, tourist outposts and many other things besides. Now the issue is that these places don't really have any content or any gameplay as such associated with them. They were introduced into the game in March 2017 and were left alone for a long while after that, for just over a year in fact. In Chapter 3, which was released only recently, Frontier added some gameplay elements to these bases, so things have finally kicked up a notch. Now this gameplay is very short and sweet, and essentially allows you to hack the installation comms or crack open their cargo hatches. Basically finally gives some gameplay to these locations, but here's the thing, generally speaking the rewards suck. These all include low value cargoes and materials and things that, whilst nice to have, you can generally find everywhere else. You don't need to come here for any specific purpose. The thing is, it all feels a bit superfluous. There's no real purpose to these areas, and whilst the gameplay is nice, the rewards make it not really worth the effort. Now some people may point out that it's interesting to do for its own sake, and that may be true for one or two occasions, but just how many of these outposts do you want to go to? How many times do you want to repeat that same game loop without having really any purpose to doing so? Like with many things in Elite, the installations are detached from the rest of the game, and for me at least, this is what leads to the problems. Now personally, I'd love to see missions that send us to these installations. Further, there are specific types of installations, so it would be amazing to have military or espionage focused missions for military installations, delivery or transportation missions for civilian installations, and study or analysis missions for scientific outposts. Really, the possibilities are absolutely endless, and that really is the thing with Elite, isn't it? It's full of so much potential. Now Vruna wants to know what my thoughts are on the Gnosis event, and they say we'll know exactly what Yamix thinks about this. So, to put it bluntly, the Gnosis event was a complete mess. That said, it wasn't a complete disaster, as a lot of people did still enjoy it, but ultimately I feel it's impossible to argue against the fact that Frontier did really mess up with this, quite big time in fact. Now if you don't know all about the Gnosis event, then you can see the video that's just about to pop up as a link in the top right hand corner. Do go check that out. Otherwise, here's my thoughts on it. Essentially, Frontier allowed explorers to believe they were going on an epic journey. There's no way Frontier could have missed the fact that players were very excited about this event. The forums, Reddit and social media were absolutely full of posts on it. Further, it was extremely clear that a whole ton of those players were basically going on this trip as explorers. They're going on in exploration ships and expected some sort of adventure in terms of things to explore. So the failed jump may have been a bit of a special twist in the story, but it was extremely misjudged. It subverted player expectations in a way that should never be done in a game. Players were offered something with one hand and then attacked with the other hand, whilst the first hand was then entirely withdrawn. What surprises me most about all of this is that anyone would be surprised about the player reactions. Why is it surprising to anyone that this would annoy players? Second, the other issue is the Hydra attack on a Gnosis. Now this really was fun, but it was also bugged and it caused a lot of people to be sent straight to the rebuy screen with some very expensive rebuys. Now it could be argued that things such as this, such as the no fire zone around the Gnosis, and the Hydras attacking people on landing pads should not have happened. Those bugs should not have been there, but bugs do happen. The real issue here for me is that the event was again seriously misjudged. Frontier knew that thousands of players had boarded the Gnosis with exploration ships which were not outfitted for combat. Frontier then decided to pit the game's most powerful enemies against these player ships. Again, the only thing that surprises me about this is that people were surprised that players were unhappy about this outcome. So ultimately, sure, it was a neat thing for Frontier to go and get involved in an event like this and actively encourage players to come along, but overall it was very misjudged. It shows a deep misjudgment from Frontier. Now I've no idea how or why the things unfolded in the way they did, but for anyone paying even a cursory interest in the event, then the outcome, or at least the player reaction rather, should have been absolutely expected. Now it is fair to point out that Frontier did put stories on Q&Ant that indicated this sort of thing may happen, but at the end of the day, how many people will really read Q&Ant? Bottom line then, it's absolutely great that Frontier went out and planned an event like this. However, there were so many mistakes here, and it's genuinely hard for me to fathom how it could have possibly have gone quite so wrong. But that said, I'm also of the opinion that when talking about the Gnosis, everyone focuses on the problems. It was also a very good event once we got over the initial hurdle, which was like running into a brick wall, but once past that, things were still a lot of fun. A lot of people had a very good time there. So overall, my opinion is that I feel, I really hope that this doesn't put Frontier off doing future events like this. The reaction may have not been favourable, at least initially, but really, I know the player base would definitely like to see more of this sort of thing, just perhaps a little better handled. Now, on to Set Dodici. I've got two questions, and let's have a look here. So, the first question, what do we think about terraforming, or what do I think about terraforming? It was their favourite part of the old game called Spore. I don't know that game. Well, I do know that game, but I've never actually played it. But do I think terraforming could be a part of the Elite Dangerous gameplay? So the way I see that is that terraforming should be a major part of exploration, a big part of Elite in fact. Discovering a candidate for terraforming should lead to a chain of events as follows. The player discovers the candidate world. The player then has to choose who to sell the information to or whether to sell it at all. So for example, they could hand it to the Federation, the Empire, the Alliance, or even the Independents, or perhaps retain that data for themselves. After that, factions or superpower moves out to terraform that world. The next stage would be the new world becomes a part of that faction's territory, and ultimately potential conflicts with the other powers could arise over that particular planet or the new territory claims. It makes sense that terraforming should be a natural part of the game. In a galaxy as big as this one, it'd be nice to see everything and civilization expanding across the galaxy. Also, what is my opinion about a hypothetical comparison of Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen? Do you think that Star Citizen will be able to keep its promises? And if so, will people still play Elite Dangerous? Would you? So, would I stop playing Elite Dangerous? Well, if Star Citizen never managed to achieve everything it's ever set out to achieve, I actually suspect that many people would stop playing just about every game going. In concept, Star Citizen would literally be the best game ever made. It has the ultimate goals after all. But whether Star Citizen can ever achieve all that is definitely a very, very different question. You know, I think it's clear by this point that it should be clear to anyone that Star Citizen is certainly struggling to meet its goals. And in some cases, or in many cases at least, it seems there's very good reasons for that. But reasons aside, the recent delays certainly show it's by no means an easy task to make a game like Star Citizen. And the question a lot of people are asking is whether or not CIG have set themselves an insurmountable task. That said, content is getting added. When I look at much of that content in action on YouTube, it does look really good. On the other hand, the game never seems to work very well for me, and I just can't get it running decent enough to go and make my own videos. I think at some point I need to totally reformat my PC. Besides the fact that every other game works perfectly on here, I really do need to get Star Citizen up and running and try it out for myself and get a few videos. But, there's also some other things that at least look a bit odd to me. For example, I think the planets look a little bit strange. Maybe it's because they're a bit too small. I think they're like 1/10 of scale or something like that. And, well, the geology just looks a little odd to me. The mountains stick up a little bit too high off the surface of the planet, and there's a lot of little details like that. But on the other hand, down on the surface of the planet, running around and looking at the ground, it all looks absolutely fantastic, and definitely something I'd like to see a lot more of. Ultimately then, I'd absolutely love to see Star Citizen achieve its goals, and for it to become the game it wants to be. Now, I backed Star Citizen on day one. Before it even hit the Kickstarter, I backed it on its own website. And whilst it's certainly morphed somewhat since then into something very different from the game that I initially backed, it still has great potential. But as I say, as time goes on, it seems there's ever more hurdles for it to overcome. Now, as for comparing it to Elite Dangerous, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see when Star Citizen is finally released, and then we'll have to have a look at what state Elite Dangerous is in by that point. At the moment, I don't think there's any way we can realistically compare the two. Now, Vincent Chu has put forward a whole bunch of questions from a number of different people. The first is from James C., who's still waiting on reading that sleeping book. Now, for those who've been watching this series, they'd know the book he's talking about. The book is actually Go the F to Sleep. It's a book I said I'd consider reading in one of these Q&Ant episodes towards the end. But as I looked into it, I realised there's going to be copyright issues for that. I have asked for permission to read it, but I haven't heard anything back yet, so I will chase that up, and assuming we can get the permissions, then it's something I'd definitely like to do. Carl L. asks where all the live streams are gone, to the ones with Yamix and everyone else. Well, those live streams should actually be available, especially the recent ones, but thinking about it, I did get a bit click happy a little while ago and accidentally removed a few videos, and a few of those live streams may unfortunately have been amongst those, but all the recent ones should definitely be there. Now, Chris S. says engineering is all about precision, so why are the results of engineering in Elite Dangerous so random and inconsistent? So, engineering in-game really is gamified. The original idea was that Frontier didn't want players to all be flying around in the same specified ship, so basically, once one player had hit on a good particular build, they knew that every other player would copy that exact same build. So the idea of making it a bit random, a bit inconsistent, is to have ship variations. From an in-game in-lore point of view, I think it was to be looked at a little bit like overclocking on a CPU. Every CPU is different, so generally speaking, each overclock is going to be a little bit different. And in actual fact, in the early days of development, Frontier did use the terms overclocking when discussing the ability to improve modules and improve your ships. But also in terms of gameplay loops, it's also there to keep the players playing. The same reason as the RNG material drops are not guaranteed. It artificially increases the time you need to invest in the game or in any particular goal. Commander Terranova? Sorry, I'm completely butchering your name there. Commander Terranova from the Mobius PvE group has come up with an interesting names for some of the Elite Dangerous fleet or the Elite Dangerous ships, and you can see an image on the screen right here. Brilliant image. Some very, very apt names in fact. So yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. Do I know the Gundam series, and if so, do I have a favourite unit? Now, I do know about Gundam, but I've never watched it, or I've never read it, but I do have an unbuilt Gundam model. I saw a video of you playing Stardew Valley a little while back. In fact, that would have been a year or two back. 2 years, maybe more. Have I ever played Banished? And do I have recommendations of similar games like these? Now, Banished is an exceptional game. I assume you mean the little village building one, which is actually quite different to Stardew Valley, in fact. But I spent a heck of a lot of time on Stardew Valley. I spent a heck of a lot of time on Banished. I spent a lot of time on Stardew Valley as well. Now, why it's not in quite the same league as Banished, I would recommend taking a look at Frostpunk. It's a really nice little game. How did voicing the station's PA during the Thargoid attack come about? So last year I was invited to the Frontier offices, and whilst there they asked if I'd like to voice the station, that's Obsidian Orbital. So of course this was before the Thargoid attacks had ever happened. No stations had been attacked. I think it was around about June actually of last year, and the stations weren't attacked until December. So it meant that I needed to keep quiet about what was coming. Now it was of course fun to be involved with that, and the Frontier Audio team are absolutely amazing. But yeah, really nice to get involved, get in the audio booth and do those lines of dialogue. Now James P wants to know my thoughts in relation to the Beyond update. So what might it be composed of? And what are my thoughts about the cancellations of certain Chapter 4 update contents? And may they or may they not perhaps be related to what Frontier are planning in the future? Now personally, one thing I've wanted most in Elite Dangerous right from the start is atmospheric worlds. So I'm really hoping that will be a part of the next update that we get in 2019. I'd also like to see space legs, of course, but that is obviously a massive undertaking, so really who knows when or if that's going to happen. I have no idea about certain content was cancelled. I don't know why that would be, but you know, if atmospheric worlds were on the card, then it would make sense that perhaps ice worlds would be delayed so they could be fit in at the same time as that. Carriers are more difficult to really understand what's going on there. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but well, maybe they come at some point in the future. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I think this is James P as well. Would I support the idea of a well-known celebrity like Michael Ironside to provide a COVAS? You know, I'd absolutely love to see Michael Ironside do a COVAS. Frontier have said no celebrity COVASes for now though, so I've no idea why that is, but it'd be pretty awesome nonetheless. Though personally, I'd really love to see a Tricia Helfer COVAS. So, learning to code in space says, fantastic name there, says I love playing Elite, but really wish they had more going on in terms of the markets and trade. Have you heard of any improvements coming in this area? I'm also wondering to what extent, if at all, the markets are later driven. So trading got an update back in Chapter 1, however I don't feel it went anywhere near far enough. Trading in Elite really doesn't feel like trading to me, and well, look at these Elite Dangerous concept images. They really show the type of system I'd like to actually see in the game. They speak to all sorts of possibilities, all sorts of information being available to basically help you make decisions on the sorts of transactions and investments you'd like to get involved in. But the thing is, I can't see this happening anytime soon. This is concept art from before the game was even released, so or perhaps even before it went into development. Now, then again, I say it won't come anytime soon, but you know, exploration and mining are getting pretty massive reworks, so I guess anything is possible. Jeff King says, how long does it take me to make a video? You seem to be able to really quickly turn out videos when news breaks. How do I achieve that? So videos can take anything from between 1 hour to 10 hours plus to make. In some cases I have stock footage and I use that for videos like news videos unless there's something very specific going on, in which case I fly out and get custom footage. But in either event I've picked up pace over time, and I guess a lot of that comes just down to my workflow. And a big factor for me as well is time management, and I'm still nowhere near good enough when it comes to that. But pretty much everything really does come down to time management and just making sure you get a certain consistency there. It's just not always that easy. So then, that brings us to an end of all the questions, subjects and topics for this month's videos. I really have enjoyed doing this, not just this video, but all of them. It's absolutely fantastic getting to directly discuss things or subjects and topics that interest you. Now, for everyone who wants to get a bit more directly involved, wants to interact and talk or just chat a bit, then I have opened up a Discord server, and you can see that in the link below. We've got well over 2,000 members now, and it is a really friendly and nice community, so do join over there if you haven't joined already. There's also a nice little bonus room there, a bonus channel for Patreon backers and people who have got a YouTube membership to this channel. So I'll be back very soon with some more videos, and I'll of course be posting up on Patreon and YouTube the post for next month's topics. Hopefully you can all join in there and let me know what you'd like to talk about. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.